Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller, my co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network. Dover, another good race at Dover. I'll tell you what, man, I like Dover. Dover produced some good racing. It was a Monday afternoon race, as we all kind of expected, looking at that weather forecast for the weekend. Martin Truex Jr. snaps his winless streak, gets in victory lane there for Joe Gibbs Racing. It was a Truex Brothers sweep at Dover. Ryan Truex winning the Xfinity race. William Byron dominating most of Dover, leading almost half the laps of the 400 laps, ended up finishing fourth. Ross Chastain, who we're going to talk about, and some of the issues that he had and caused in this race, he won a stage. He finished second. Ryan Blaney ran solid all day. He had won the best cars all day, just as far as, running top three all day. And then Denny Hamlin finishing top five. No surprise. Well, I mean, some people might have been surprised, but another good run by Christopher Bell there in sixth. Brad Keselowski had a solid top 10 finish. Josh Berry, another top 10 finish, replacing Alex Bowman. That's another topic that we need to talk about, is Alex Bowman and people, the extracurricular activities that people are either on the side of the fence of, whether they should be allowed or not, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I'll tell you what, though, two guys that had really good races here at Dover. Ty Gibbs, I hate to say it, and I wrote him up as a tournament play for DraftKings this week. He was legitimately running top five. I hate to say it, but he looked really good. And Corey LaJoie running top 15 legitimately at Dover, finishing 14th. But overall, 76% in Jeff Gluck's poll said that was a good race. I fully agree with that. Dover produced some great racing. The competition there at the end between Truex and Chastain, even before that final caution that we got, was just great to watch. And, obviously I said William Byron dominated most of the race, but overall I thought it was a very good race at Dover. I wish we still ran here twice a year, but unfortunately, this is the only race we're going to get at Dover this season. But Nick, what'd you think? What'd you think of this race? Do you think it was a good one?
It was a great race. I'm a little mini whine about it. Who voted no and why?
Yeah.
What? How could you not like that race? That was really
Kyle
good
Larson
racing.
fans?
Yeah, I guess maybe, but Chastain haters maybe. I don't know. That was a hell of a good race, but I hear and see you pouring yourself a drink. Would be forgetful if I didn't say happy birthday to you. We're recording this on your birthday, May 2nd, Tuesday evening. What are you making? You making a little cocktail there or something?
Well, Captain and Coke Zero.
I like it.
I'm a big Captain fan. That's what I started drinking when I first got into alcohol. Was Captain Morgan. So I've been on a little liquor kick lately. But yeah, my birthday today. Also, happy birthday shout out to my mother. We have the same birthday.
Oh, cool.
And Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch also May 2nd birthday. So cheers to everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you, Nick, for the happy birthday.
RotoDog LB, my dog, tomorrow. So when this podcast drops, for all of you listening, it'll be my dog's birthday. He'll be turning 12. But yeah, no, happy birthday. Dover, amazing race. I thought it was arguably the best race of the year. Certainly up there in the top two or three, I would say. Yeah, I mean, I think Auto Club, Vegas were both pretty good. I think Richmond was fine. I wouldn't say it was great, but it was fine. Phoenix was fine. It wasn't great. We talked about the issues with the short flat tracks. Richmond and Phoenix weren't terrible. Martinsville was pretty bad from what I hear. I mean, Richmond wasn't too good, but Circuit of the Americas was a disaster. Obviously, the super speedways haven't been great, or the drafting tracks. So I think you have to put Dover in the top three. I think it's the three air quote intermediate tracks, even though Dover's not really an intermediate. The three that's used the intermediate package so far: Auto Club, Vegas, and Dover in some order. For me, it might be the best race of the year. We'll see. And now we're going to another intermediate this coming week at Kansas. I would expect more good racing here. But yeah, Ty Gibbs ran really well. I think a couple other guys, you mentioned Corey LaJoie, ran really well. Bubba Wallace made a lot of gains. They were struggling hard. But on the flip side,
he got really fast as that race went on.
Yeah, Chase Elliott struggled all race.
Oh my God.
I don't think he really cracked the top 10 much at all. He ran 87.5% of his laps in the top 15, but he never really cracked the top 10. Kevin Harvick wasn't that good. You know, he got up to 5th at one point, but a lot of that was other guys falling out. He wasn't really that fast. And, you know, obviously Kyle Busch had the pit issue, which caused him to get into that first crash there. So rough day for some big names there. Dover, it's one of those tracks where I was really happy with my betting strategy. I took, as my 2 largest bets, I took under 11.5 to win. That lost, but I was very okay with it because Chastain looked great, obviously. Denny Hamlin looked like he arguably had the best car at certain points in that race. And then, obviously, Kyle Larson probably would have had the best car or near the best car. He was absolutely flying through the field until the issues that he had. So I was really happy with that. My other bet was starting position 11 to 20. That ended up hitting because we had Truex, Hamlin, Harvick, Chastain, Suarez, somebody else I'm forgetting that definitely had a chance to win as well. So Larson. Really like Larson, that's who it was. So really liked my strategy because the issue with Dover is I showed no value on any individual drivers outright, any individual drivers top 3, top 5, top 10. So I showed no positional value. The book won because they all hold, right? They have a hold 20%, 30%, 40%, whatever ends up being for various markets. And typically the hold increases as you go from outright to top 3, 5, 10, etc. So I showed literally zero value on any positional bets or any outrights. Technically, I had like 6 3/4% versus 6.5% on Ross or something like that. I don't really count that as value because it's not within the error bars as well. So I didn't make a single positional bet. I made these like group type bets. I wouldn't say not like a group bet. Like I did have the Corey LaJoie group bet as well, which hit, which I was super happy with because he was clearly the favorite for me in that group, and he was plus 475 when I got him. But like a group of drivers to win the race. Those were my bets, and I was really happy with my betting strategy because Dover does have a lot of incidents. And we saw a lot of incidents at the race this past weekend, right? For me, I'm counting 8 drivers that suffered from a major incident. In other words, you know, other drivers had, like Kyle Busch had an incident, but I don't count that as a major incident because he still finished, within the top couple lead laps and stuff. He's still running mostly close to top speed, etc. Just bad luck. But there were 8 drivers that had a major incident out of 36. That is a 22.2% incident rate. I had slightly over 18% incident rate projected for Dover. And that's really high. Like if we look at Kansas, if we look at some of these other tracks, these typical intermediates, we're around 14, 15% at these. So Dover it's funny. It's kind of predictive. It's pretty predictive until the major incidents start happening. But if you avoid the major incidents, it's usually pretty predictive. Obviously, a guy like Kyle Busch, it wasn't for him. But overall, a pretty predictive track, except it does have its calamity. And we saw even more calamity with some of the tire issues. We saw the cording on Kevin Harvick. We saw the cording on Joey Logano, etc. There were a couple other times where tires, but it wasn't like major tire issues. I was really okay with that. I think maybe some people voted not a good race, maybe because of the cording, but it really wasn't that bad. It was a couple drivers, a couple times, and that was it. And that's a typical NASCAR race, if you ask me. We want certain things to happen on occasion to certain drivers because it creates intrigue and interest. We don't want every driver to just always have an incident-free race. That would be boring. So that's what I thought.
Definitely want the tire wear. Like as soon as we saw practice on Saturday and they basically said, you know, these tires are getting eaten up, I'm like, I love it because that's what we want. That's where we get the best races. Auto Club, very good race, super high tire wear. Same thing here with Dover. Same thing we see at Richmond. But Richmond, you know, the strategy comes into play whether to pit or not. But like you said, Denny Hamlin, another strong day. His pit crew didn't do him any favors.
No.
And the same thing can be said about Chase Elliott, but Chase Elliott also just was not fast all day. But Denny Hamlin had a really good car, but just showed how important track position actually was. You know, unless you were Kyle Larson, he had a rocket ship. That car was so fast. It took about, I want to say 20 laps into that first run, but as soon as he found his groove, he was like 3 miles an hour faster than everybody else there for a few laps. Until that issue there with, Chastain wrecking the lapper. and him collecting Kyle Larson. But talking about guys struggling, Austin Dillon was like, we know, we don't like him. Anybody that listens to this know we don't like him. He was ridiculously slow. Like almost you think he might be testing. They might be testing something, but they'd have no reason to be testing anything right now.
Especially with their 60-point penalty or whatever it was.
Yeah, like he only finished 2 laps ahead of JJ Yaley, who was in the 51 Rick Ware car that Cody Ware normally drives. He was running. He was getting outran by Brennan Poole in the 15 car for Rick Ware Racing, legitimately getting outran. Yeah. Like Austin Dillon was absolute garbage in this race, and it's just so weird. Richard Childress Racing is just kind of in a weird situation because Kyle Busch has the 2 wins. He has the Auto Club win, and he has Talladega. Now Talladega could have won anyone. RCR is usually very good at super speedways. But overall, I still feel like, despite the fact, like, because I know people are going to say, like our preseason, I was heavy on like Kyle Busch not having a good year. And I know people can come back at me and say, well, he already has 2 wins. He could get more. That team overall, that organization overall is not running well. Kyle Busch still wasn't running well in this race, despite starting on the pole. Yeah, he led the first 25 laps. So we've seen that, like in the this makes it 5 Dover races in a row that the pole sitter has led less than 30 laps. So we see this a lot. Kyle Busch struggled. He finished 3 laps down. And, obviously Austin Dillon struggled. So don't really know what's going on there. But speaking of, the Chevy overall, like obviously Hendrick Motorsports is, and I'm kind of switching gears here a little bit from Dover. I'm sure we'll head back to it. But it was announced today, and I want to talk about this. My weird ass segue here, because we've talked about Legacy Motor Club and how they have been just off this year. Like Eric Jones has not had the speed that we saw last year. Noah Gragson has been basically a back marker, like with his speed this year. Announced today though, Legacy Motor Club's going to Toyota next year, and they will now be adding 2 more cars to the Toyota fleet, giving them 8: 4 at Joe Gibbs Racing, the 2 at 2311, and now the 2 at 2/3, no matter, like, they have that part-time car, but Legacy Motor Club moving over. And honestly, I think that's the reason that Legacy Motor Club is not running well this year, because they're not getting as much support with Chevy, and now it's almost like they're focusing already on 2024. But what do you think of that? Like, you think good move, smart move for Legacy? I think it's a great move for Toyota to kind of even the number of cars in the field compared to Chevy and Ford. But is this a good move for Legacy? Obviously, basically what I think it was Pockrass or someone tweeted that Legacy got a deal that they couldn't refuse from Toyota, which there's always some like risk there with that happening. But obviously they made that decision, and they're heading to Toyota next year.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bummed by it. I actually really love having the 6-car group to bet on for Top Toyota, and getting like 18-1 on Ty Gibbs or Bubba Wallace, like 25-1 at random races. I love that. So it's gonna take a little bit away from that. That's a little selfish thing. But your favorite reporter, media member, Jim Utter, tweeted, Maury Gallagher made clear Legacy Motor Club's new alliance with Toyota will put them on equal footing with Joe Gibbs Racing. They did not want to rely on an alliance with JGR. They wanted to be a standalone organization. To me, that reads, they're still going to suck. I think you need that JGR alliance because JGR is fucking good, right? So to me, that reads, they're still going to suck. They want to be on equal footing. They just don't have the in-house ability to do that yet. And obviously they're not getting as much support from Chevy this year, maybe as they were last year, knowing that this was in the works. But yeah, you'll be getting full support from Toyota, but they still don't have I just don't think they have quite where they need to be in terms of in-house ability to make a lot of gains. So it's going to have to still be a building process for them, I think, with Toyota. I don't think they're going to suddenly jump up the board and be right up there with 2311, for example. Could they jump up a little bit? Sure. Toyota's a very strong manufacturer. They'll certainly get more support from Toyota than they are getting from Chevy now, but maybe that puts them mid-pack instead of lower mid-pack. So yeah, it's not a huge thing for me in terms of what I think their performance will be. But I do think it'll get better slowly over the coming years. I think it's certainly possible for it to get better. The other thing is they pretty much announced that it's going to be Eric Jones and Noah Gragson next year as well. So no Eric Jones to Ford or anything like that. Stewart Haas Racing, all of those that we had speculated about seem to be dead at this point because they said, great to have Eric Jones and Noah Gragson back in the Toyota family. So I think that's pretty much official that those guys are going to be back next year in those rides.
Yeah, and obviously, Jones has he used to drive for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's driven a Toyota before. I'm pretty sure Gregson has too, if I remember right. He used to be in that manufacturer. Man, I'm struggling.
Yep.
But
get to.
yeah, exactly. But again, looking at manufacturers, and I saw this tweet earlier that really. We talk about these big changes that organizations make. Obviously Legacy Motor Club's making a very big change going from Chevy to Toyota. Roush Fenway Racing made a big change when Brad Keselowski jumped in there as part owner. And I remember, and I will take the L on this, I remember when this happened, I said, if anything, it's going to get worse. They're going to somehow get worse because, Roush Fenway at the time was a lower mid-tier team. I would argue that they are almost the elite Ford team right now. And I think it's a lot closer than a lot of people think. Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing is strong. And Penske, while they do have their bright moments, we've seen a lot more of them being mediocre and or worse this year, specifically Joey Logano. Austin Cindric, it's kind of become expected. He's really not running well right now. I think over the last 5 races, he hasn't finished better than 20th.
I'm just going to jump in here on Austin Cindric. Dead to me.
He was your Paul Menard pick of the week, wasn't he?
2 weeks in a row.
And
dead to me.
Yeah.
At this point, he's just not good. He's just not good. Outside of road courses, super speedways, he's just not good. What has he done? He finished 6th at Vegas, but it was not a 6th on speed. Let me go pull up my flags metric for that race and see where Austin Cindric lies. I just have to go grab it here real quick. But Austin Cindric, in terms of flags at Las Vegas, was, I feel like I have to scroll. 21st in flags. Not good. So even though he finished 6th, he was 21st approximately best car. And his teammate Joey Logano was ahead of him. His teammate Ryan Blaney ahead of him. He's consistently by far the worst driver on that team. And I know he's only a second-year Cup driver, but Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney in other cars, not in Penske cars, but in other cars, we're getting results in the top 10 in their second year more frequently than Austin Cindric in his second year. So it's not going so well for Austin Cindric. Like, I'm looking at Ryan Blaney, his second full-time year, he had through the first 11 races, which we are through 11 races now, he had 4 top 10s and a 12th place finish at Texas where he led the most laps. Austin Cindric doesn't have, and those were all ovals, right? We didn't have as many road courses back in 2017, as many drafting tracks. We only had 2 drafting tracks at that point and 0 road courses run in 2017. So Blaney was doing that legitimately on these tracks. He finished 39th at Talladega that year in those first 11 races. So one of those top 10s was a second at Daytona, but the other 3, Vegas, Auto Club, Kansas, mile-and-a-half tracks where Austin Cindric is just not performing. Texas, again, led the most laps and finished 12th. So, and that was with Wood Brothers. That wasn't even with Penske. That was with Wood Brothers. So it's just clear to me Austin Cindric is not on the level of these other 2 drivers. So Penske as a whole down. Joey Logano 13th in points, and he hasn't been fast. He was 18th in flags at Vegas. Ryan Blaney, he's 5th in points. He led the most laps at Talladega, again, a drafting track, but didn't win a race last year. Hasn't won a race this year.
That's what I was just going to say. His winless streak is 57 races. Ryan Blaney hasn't won a race in 57 races. And, obviously Logano won the championship last year. We can't take that away from him. But I think it was very telling at Phoenix to start out this year, Penske was not good. They were nowhere near. They had nowhere near the speed. They were not good at Richmond. They were not good at Martinsville. They're not good at the tracks that they are historically their best. Yep. So I don't want to like roll the red flag here with Penske, but to me, everything about them this season is concerning.
I agree with you. And, you know, part of that is the nose change, and I guess it hasn't affected some of the other Ford teams as much. Penske hasn't been able to get a hold of it as well. But we're hitting that point in the season where things will start to change. Will Penske make those gains? That's what we're going to have to look at through Kansas, Darlington, and Charlotte. 3 intermediate tracks, very different intermediate tracks, for sure, and then Gateway. So it's going to be very telling in these next 4 races. Is Penske back on the right track? Are they getting back on the right track? These next 4 races are going to be very key to determining where the rest of their season goes.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Like, obviously, you know, Blaney ran really well at Dover. I'm not going to take that away from him. He had a great car. Right. But just overall, there's just a lot of concern here for Penske. But, yeah, Roush Fenway, Keselowski Racing, looking great. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they win here soon. But good to see Truex back in victory lane. He was another one that had a long winless streak going. Obviously, he won the Clash earlier this year, but yeah, it was definitely fun to see him back in victory lane, and obviously I think a lot of people were mad at Ross Chastain, myself included, from this last race. But the fact of the matter is, before we get to talking about Ross Chastain, because I know that's going to be your whine about it, before we get to that part of the show, we're going to do a little standings update here. Ross Chastain is now the points leader. Love him or hate him, love his driving style or hate him, he is now the points leader, which is impressive considering Christopher Bell has 8 top 10s and 5 top 5s this year and a win, compared to Chastain's 5 top 10s, 4 top 5s, and 0 wins. Chastain's still the leader by 3 points over Christopher Bell, and then there's a huge gap down to Kevin Harvick. Then Truex, you know, we talked about him last week being in the top 5 in points, not having a superb season, gets in victory lane, locks himself in the playoffs. Ryan Blaney there sitting in 5th, Reddick, Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Keselowski, and then Larson there in 10th in points. But yeah, just what do you think about who would you rather have? Would you rather have Ross Chastain, who's kind of being like I don't want to say a hero or a dud, or like a Christopher Bell who is consistently good but not great, but has the potential?
I want upside. I always want upside, and I think Ross. Mm-hmm. I don't get me wrong. Christopher Bell has plenty of upside. He's good. He's very good. Ross Chastain has an extra level of upside. Imagine, and this is not a knock against Trackhouse, but imagine if Ross Chastain was in a Hendrick car or a Joe Gibbs Racing car. He could probably reel off 4, 5, 6 wins in a year. Whereas, yeah, Christopher Bell, he's won 4 races in the last calendar year, and that's very good. I wouldn't say he's necessarily backed into some of those wins, but you know, he hasn't been the dominant car like we can see from Ross typically. So it's very interesting to me. But I think I'd rather have Ross, rather have that upside. Maybe I wouldn't rather have the hatred of the whole garage at me, essentially. But I think just as far as like raw speed, talent, etc. And again, I'm not saying Christopher Bell is not talented, etc. I just think Ross Chastain is an incredibly good talent. Not going to use the W word because I think Christopher Bell is the W word as well. But I think there's just a different level, a different amount of aggression. And we look at stage points. That's where Ross is killing people. The number 1 driver in stage points this year, William Byron. I don't think that really surprises anybody. Number 2, Ross Chastain in stage points. We always think about him as like he has a lot of upside in terms of finishing position, but he's been grabbing the stage points this year as well. So I think that's a lot of it. He's running up front, and he's consistently running up front. So that's what's doing it for him right now. And if you do add the 60 points that William Byron got docked from his penalty back, he still would be only 3rd in points behind Bell and Chastain because couple bad races in there. 34th at the 500, 32nd at Atlanta. And I say bad races, they're drafting tracks, so it's not like he's been bad. 24th at Richmond after leading the most laps, unfortunately for him there. So I think it's, the 4 best cars right now are Larson, Byron, Chastain, and Bell. And I think those are easily the 4 best in the series right now. There's a gap down after that. And I know Chase Elliott is Chase Elliott, but he's coming off that leg injury. He hasn't quite been Chase Elliott. We'll have to see if he gets to the Byron and Larson level. But right now, the 4 best drivers in the Cup Series are Chastain, Bell, Larson, and Byron. Period.
I don't think anybody can argue against Byron and Larson. Their speed is
Easily
insane.
number 1 and 2.
I don't know whether to include Hamlin as a possibility in there, but that'd be about the only other potential person that I could maybe make a case for would be Denny Hamlin there. But I'm with you. Obviously Christopher Bell solidly, Larson, Byron, and then Chastain. I mean, you can't argue against the points leader. Although I can't wait for your whine about it because I'm going to play devil's advocate with Ross Chastain, I feel like, and I'm looking forward to that. But one guy, you tweeted about this earlier today, Todd Gilliland is sitting 23rd in points. Obviously, this is not a huge thing, but he's only 7 points behind Corey LaJoie. Mind you, he's made 2 starts, one in a Rick Ware car and one in a third Front Row Motorsports, but he's ahead of Eric Jones, Eric Almirola, Justin Haley, AJ Allmendinger, Ryan Preece, Chase Elliott with only 5 starts, Harrison Burton, Austin Dillon, who had a penalty, Noah Gragson, Ty Dillon, garbage, and then the rest of the backmarkers. Todd Gilliland is driving his ass off this year in a year that it basically was told, I think the writing's on the wall. He's not going to be in the Cup Series next year, at least for Front Row. So, yeah, we got to give him a shout-out here. Where did he finish at Dover? I just had the results up here.
He finished 25th at Dover.
Which for him at Dover is a good effort. It's solid for him. But
it's definitely not his best track. He's more on, shorter, flatter tracks, road courses, gets them done at super speedways, of course. Obviously great at dirt. So, it's been a pretty favorable schedule for him. We're going to have to see where he shakes out after Kansas, Darlington, and Charlotte as well. I have a feeling that could go down. But at this point in the season, 11 races into the year, like you said, he's ahead of a lot of big names. He's ahead of Eric Jones, who almost made the playoffs last year, or won a race last year. He's ahead of Justin Haley, AJ Allmendinger, Eric Almirola, Ryan Preece in a Stewart Haas car. Austin Dillon in, his teammate has won 2 races this year. And he's also only 16 points behind his teammate, Michael McDowell, through 11 races. That's not even a point. That's just over a point per race, like 1.5 points per race. Because one of those races, again, was that Rick Ware, and that was his worst finish of the season, 32nd at Phoenix. You can't get much out of that car. So even if we credit him with, like, let's say a 25th place, which is pretty much where he's been everywhere else as, like, his worst finish aside from Vegas, let's say he's a 25th place finish. That's like 7 extra points. He'd be tied with Corey LaJoie on points at that point if he finished 25th at Phoenix. And Phoenix should be a good track for him, shorter, flatter track. So I think that would be maybe even underselling him a little bit had he been in the front row car at Phoenix. So, yeah, dude's been really good. And obviously, if we're saying Todd Gilliland, good job, you're in 23rd, we got to shout out Corey LaJoie in 22nd as well. That's a phenomenal effort by that team as well. Remember, they were running 31st last year after the regular season. Even if they had won Atlanta, they wouldn't have gotten into the playoffs because they wouldn't have been in the top 30. Well, now they're running 22nd in points. So big effort to the number 7 Spire Motorsports team as well. Corey LaJoie driving his ass off this year. Todd Gilliland driving his ass off this year. Good job by both those drivers and teams. Yeah,
just to put it to perspective, the kind of year that Gilliland's having. Like, he had a decent rookie year last year. It wasn't awful. Average finish of 23.2. He had 4 top 15s, 2 top 10s, and 1 top 5. This year, through 11 races, 5 top 15s, 3 top 10s, no top 5 yet, but well on pace to I mean, he's already bested himself in top 15s and top 10s. He has 6 top 20s this year. He had 11 last year. So, just a great run there by him. As far as anybody else in the points, pretty much the same, like as we talked about last week. Not much is changing here. I will note, though, staying on Todd Gilliland here, he has more top 10s than Bubba Wallace, Austin Cindric, Michael McDowell, guys ahead of him in points. So, yeah, we like the underdogs here on Stacking Dennys.
We do. I think some of the interesting things about the point standings, if we look last year, pretty much almost like, I wouldn't say the same thing. Obviously, we've had the penalties to a couple of the Hendrick cars. But, we have Brad Keselowski in 9th. Last year, he was in the 20s. We have Chris Buescher in 12th. Last year, he was in the upper teens or 20s for most of the year. Bubba Wallace, though, still sitting in 21st, kind of like he was last year. Ty Gibbs in 18th. That's obviously a departure from where Kyle Busch was, but honestly kind of impressive for Ty Gibbs. He's made a lot of gains in that car, in the series. Yeah, since his fill-in role last year and start to this year. So I think the one thing is I do want to pump the brakes, and we'll talk about Kansas, but I want to pump the brakes on Ty Gibbs a little bit.
So
he
that's
still
gonna be part
hasn't
of my line
shown
about it.
Yeah, he hasn't shown a ton of stuff here. So you'll whine about it, but we got to pump the brakes a little bit there. But we're still seeing Austin Cindric in that 20s-ish ballpark range. I think the other big difference is Eric Jones down in 24th, which, no surprise, Legacy Motor Club. And then, of course, Chase Elliott, and I think this is an interesting tweet from Bob Pockris. Chase Elliott, in his quest to get back into the top 16 in points, should he not get a win this year, if we take the current 16th place driver, Chase Briscoe, and look at Chase Briscoe's points per race and project that out over 26 races, then, and this is how it goes. So Briscoe 16th in the standings at his points pace from the first 11 races, so his points per race from the first 11, Elliott would need to average 29.5 points a race over the next 15 events to catch him. So Elliott would need to average 29.5. Well, guess how many Elliott's averaging so far this year? 29.6. Yeah, 29.5, 29.6. So Elliott needs to exactly keep this pace if Briscoe keeps exactly that pace to pass him for 16th. Now, obviously, a lot of other things will change. Maybe Daniel Suarez wins a race, he's 17th in points, or has a lot better performance, right? Because this is very un-Daniel Suarez-like, but it is, but it isn't, if you know what I mean. Like, given what he did last year and what we expect from Trackhouse. But in his last 8 races, he has 6 finishes of 23rd or worse. But then he has a 17th and a 9th in there as well. And to start the year, he finished 7th, 4th, and 10th. The only driver, one of the few drivers, I should say, I think one of 3, who started off the season with 3 straight top 10s. So the last 8 races haven't necessarily been Daniel Suarez-like. Maybe some bad luck, maybe some mistakes on his part, as in Dover. He certainly made a mistake. He says he thinks, the tire or something happened or whatever, but it wasn't the tire. I'm telling you, you just made a mistake. But there's certainly a chance he leapfrogs Chase Briscoe, but it's going to be interesting to have this Elliott watch the further and further we go without Elliott getting a win.
Yeah, and I think Dover was very telling. I think he came back from. I'm really starting to think he came back from his injury way too soon.
I agree.
And he's not 100%. And obviously, he can win at a road course, but the road course is going to put pressure on his legs. Like, I don't think it's anywhere near a guarantee that Chase Elliott wins a race before these playoffs start. And that's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on. Like, obviously, I think he has the car to do it, but I don't know. I think this injury is a lot worse than. I remember one of my friends that works in the medical field. She said, as soon as it happened and how long the surgery was, she said, there's no way he's coming back as quick as they say he's coming back when he has that long of a surgery. And then he did, and good for him. But it was very telling, I think, at Dover, because Dover is Chase Elliott, one of Chase Elliott's best tracks, and he didn't even show an ounce of speed compared to where he normally is.
So, yeah, let's look at Kyle Busch when he broke his leg. He broke his leg before the Daytona 500 in 2015. Same thing. Fracture, I believe, of the tibia in an impact way, kind of like Chase Elliott had a high impact tibia fracture. They're not perfectly identical comparisons in terms of the breaks themselves because every break is different. But Kyle Busch missed 11 races. So we just finished the 11th race. So this is when Kyle Busch returned, would be this coming week. But he also injured his leg 2 weeks before Chase Elliott, and he came back 3 weeks after Chase Elliott. Like, I feel like Chase Elliott probably is still 2 or 3 weeks away from being where Kyle Busch was at his point in the injury. And then it still took Kyle Busch 4 weeks of kind of struggles before he reeled off 4 wins in 5 races. So we could still be another 7 weeks away if we say 2 or 3 more weeks for Chase Elliott, plus 4 weeks in the car of maybe more struggle. We could still be like 6-7 weeks away from Chase Elliott contending for wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Especially, like Hendrick has the speed. Hendrick had the speed at Dover. Josh Berry, like we've talked about him before, like we kind of think he's a little overrated, but he had a top 10 car and he finished top 10. But speaking of Hendrick Motorsports, Alex Bowman injured. He's out for 3 weeks is the estimate, 2 to 3 weeks. We'll see how long it goes. He has a fractured vertebrae. But it's noteworthy because he has -5 playoff points right now. And this is just adding to his, potential, setbacks, I guess would be how I want to, phrase that. Obviously he's been having a great season. He's been running really well. That car's running really well. But as far as being a true championship contender, this is really going to set him back. I don't think this puts him into a must-win playoffs to get into the playoff situation, but it certainly could, depending on how many race winners we get, how long he's actually out. But the biggest controversy or the biggest discussion right now with Alex Bowman, with Chase Elliott getting injured, we've seen plenty of injuries away from the Cup Series.
Tony Stewart had one, yeah.
Yeah. Is a lot of people are saying, and Rusty Wallace was in the booth for Dover, and he did a very good job, actually. I enjoyed it. But he was it's always been that way. The drivers shouldn't race anything else. If you're in the Cup Series, you should race Cup Series, and that's it. I don't think I agree with that. I think drivers should be able to do what the hell they want to do. I think that was a big reason Larson not only was unhappy, I think it really affected him driving at Ganassi when he couldn't race dirt. Like, let these guys do what they'd love to do. Like, this shit, you can get injured in a freak accident at home. Like, obviously, them getting into a sprint car is, yes, there's inherently more danger than sitting at home on your ass. But I am so against these people that say that Alex Bowman should have never been in that race car. And I'm curious to see if this causes a shift now by NASCAR Cup Series owners to where they try to limit this stuff. Like, are they going to try to tell these drivers that they can't go skiing, they can't go snowboarding? Like, how far is this going to go if it does go anywhere? But what's your take on, if these drivers should be allowed to race in other series outside of the Cup Series? Because I kind of get the owner's perspective, but at the same time, I completely disagree with it.
Yeah, I let them race. Let them do what they want, right? I mean, that's how they made their name, doing these things that they want to do. Plus, I mean, you could say Chase Elliott's snowboarding accident, but we all go snowboarding from our jobs. Sure, maybe if I break my leg in a snowboarding accident, it affects my job for a lot less time than it affects Chase Elliott's job. But I'd still be in the hospital for a few days, or laid up on some drugs and trying to get better. I'd have to take time off work. Certainly a lot lower stakes if it happens to me than if it happens to Chase Elliott. But we only live one life, and that's it. And if you're going to deprive somebody of living their life, I can't get behind that. I don't care what kind of, profession you're in. We all should be able to live our lives, our enjoyment, as long as we're not hurting other people, as long as we're not doing illegal things. I don't see any reason why we can't enjoy a snowboarding trip, enjoy racing on dirt, enjoy whatever it is we want to do with our extracurricular activities, because, as long as you're not harming other people, hurting other people, etc., it's not a big deal to me. Obviously, a lot of money is on the line, and I understand that. A lot of other, I wouldn't say other jobs, but other people are affected by it. But that's part of the business we're in, right? That's part of if you sign up to be in this business, even as a crew member or whatever, you understand these things can happen. You understand your driver can miss races. You understand you can get points penalties. I mean, if we really want to criticize any kind of extracurricular activities, et cetera, maybe we should criticize Hendrick Motorsports for constantly getting penalties. And I'm not criticizing Hendrick. Hendrick is doing a very good job of allowing their drivers to do what they want to do. But I'm saying, like, hypothetically, if Hendrick would be like, okay, no longer are we going to allow our drivers to do this, well, maybe you should stop getting all these penalties then. And again, this is not a criticism of Hendrick Motorsports. That would be like my response if they said that. Because now you're hindering their ability to do their job by setting them 60 points back, 100 points back, whatever it ends up being, 5 playoff points back. So, again, not a criticism of Hendrick, just as an example, if they were to be like, these guys can't do this anymore. And you know what? Rick Hendrick's not going to do that. And all respect to them for that, because guess who's racing the Indy 500 next year? Kyle fucking Larson. I cannot wait to see that. We're in the month of May, Jordan. We're in the month of May. I'm pumped about the Indy 500, but I also can't wait for the month of May in 2024, because Kyle Larson's going to be racing the goddamn Indy 500. He can win that race. He absolutely can win that race. He's Kyle fucking Larson. He's racing with one of the best teams in the IndyCar series, Aris McLaren. He can win that race. He is that talented. He's that sharp of a mind. He's in that much of the prime of his career. He doesn't need to get up to speed in these cars. He's Kyle Larson. He will be up to speed immediately. Plus, it's the Indy 500. There's practice for like a month almost. They get an open test in April. I'm so excited about it. I know I'm jumping way ahead, going off topic, but Kyle Larson absolutely can win next year's Indy 500. So let him race. Let him race. Let him do what they love. That's my response to all that. Got a little excited because it's Indy and it's like the greatest race in the world. And now we've seen Kurt Busch do it, right? He raced the Indy 500. He did very well. He's not Kyle Larson. Kurt Busch is not the most aggressive. He is, don't get me wrong, he's aggressive, but he's not like Kyle Larson aggressive. He's not Kyle Larson like, I'm just going to fucking rip the wall. I'm going to do whatever it takes. Again, Kurt will do whatever it takes, but just in a different style of racing. We saw, was there another NASCAR crossover recently? I can't remember, but definitely Kurt Busch. He did a very good job. He was with Andretti, I believe it was Autosport, and they did a great job, but he didn't really pass anybody. He just kind of rode forward. Oh, Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy had a great month of May until the race itself. He fell way back. But Jimmy's also on the tail end of his career there, period. And he did a great job in Indy cars on the ovals, especially. He got a 5th place finish at Iowa. But Kyle Larson's something different, something special, somebody in the prime of his career. And I do hope we get to see Kyle Busch race the Indy 500 as well, because that was certainly part of his contract with Richard Childress was, if the right opportunity arises, I can do this. And yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to see Kyle Busch do it as well.
Yeah, the last thing I'm going to say on this Alex Bowman thing is I love the comments that came in after it happened. Almost like a lot of them were like, "Oh, I'm sure his sponsor was happy like that." And then you look at the car, fucking Ally was on the car. Like,
exactly.
Shut the fuck up. Like they fully support this. So shut the hell up. But speaking of making stupid decisions, that's going to get us straight into whine about it. And I know you want to talk about Ross Chastain. You like what I did there? That was
right. Well done. Well played.
Yeah, so whine about it. Presented by Louisville Winery. I'll let you kick this off with Ross Chastain. The biggest topic this week. Outside of, this is even bigger than Truex winning the race.
Yeah, honestly, we probably got to blame Ross for,
Thanks,
the end
Ross.
of Fantasy as well. Yeah, the end of Random
Ross.
Fantasy as well. It's probably Ross's fault.
I hated that
Random
segment so
Fantasy
much.
Yeah, the stupid. That should be the real whine about it. What the hell was that segment? God, it was dumb. But okay, so my whine about it, Ross Chastain, what are you doing? You've made a lot of mistakes. You always admit when you make the mistakes. You apologize. You say you're sorry. I get it.
Does he though?
I'm glad you apologized. He did. I mean, he straight up apologized. Said, "I'm sorry. I screwed up.
I didn't mean to do that.
This. I didn't mean." Yeah. I mean, at least he takes fault for when he screws up. Dude, you got to stop doing that. You're at the point now. You're not just reputationally, but just the number of times this has happened. How are you not learning from it? Why are we still doing this?
It was lap 80. Lap 80.
Yeah, lap 80. A back marker.
Of a 400-lap race to a back marker.
It's so bad. And I've gone to bat for Ross a few times. I went to bat for him in the race last week with Noah Gragson. There was a hole there. I fully believe he had a good move there. I went to bat for him on the Kevin Harvick incident where, he didn't touch him and Harvick just spun out. I think it was at Atlanta. And
yeah, it was.
I went to bat for him at a couple of times, and I'm even, getting points where people are commenting on me on Twitter like, "Oh, you're just a Ross Chastain stan," and I'm like, "No, I just call it like I see it. I'm not a Ross Chastain stan. I will call the dude out if he screws up because he screwed up, and he keeps screwing up. He screwed up with Denny Hamlin last year. He screwed up again with Denny Hamlin last year. He screwed up with, I think, Truex last year. He screwed up with Kyle Busch at some point. Like, the dude has made a lot of mistakes, and he just is not learning from them.
Why? Okay. Why is nobody paying him back?
So Larson's payback. Well,
Larson's payback was gold. I loved
it was
Larson's
awesome.
payback.
It was great. It was unfortunate that the caution ended up coming out, and although Ross basically closed that 1.5 second gap back, but
that was the best part of it because he lost. I think it was like a full second, and he had it gained back within like 2 laps. I was like, holy shit!
Yeah. But that was how you pay somebody back outside of putting them in the wall. That's how you pay somebody back. Exactly what Larson did. He didn't go the Matt Kenseth route and just slam him into the wall, which I
was rooting
to this
for
day I love. I've wanted it to happen. I'm not gonna lie. But Matt Kenseth got suspended. Bubba Wallace suspended. We've seen Denny Hamlin get fined because he admitted letting go of the wheel into Ross for payback, right? Like, which okay, so actually somebody did pay back Ross. Hamlin paid back Ross. That was his final payback on Ross there.
But that wasn't.
But we saw
payback.
But Larson the same thing. Like, it wasn't like payback, but it was payback.
I know. I'm saying, like, when's someone gonna Kenseth him? Or when is someone gonna walk up to Ross Chastain after the race and hit him in the face
and slug him? Well, see, and that was the thing with the Bubba Wallace penalty. They didn't penalize him for shoving Kyle Larson 2 or 3 times. They penalized him for the on-track incident, the retaliation, the blatant, obvious retaliation. That would be the real payback, and that's what Brennan Poole alluded to. Somebody needs to whip his ass. I want to see Brennan Poole whip his ass. I want to see Backmarker whip Ross Chastain's ass. And actually, Brennan Poole is a talented race car driver. He's never really gotten the best shots. He is pretty talented. And I feel very bad for him that he didn't get an opportunity to show off more there because he was faster than Austin Dillon. He was passing Austin Dillon way better than his teammate there. Green flag speed isn't going to tell the whole story because he wrecked out early, and green flag speed is obviously not the best indicator. That's why I'm going to do my flags for Dover. I haven't done it yet, but Joe Logano was not 31st in green flag speed. He had a corded tire. It caused him a couple bad laps. And then he rode the last few laps with a damaged car. Same thing with Kevin Harvick. He wasn't 19th or whatever it is in green flag, 13th in green flag speed. He was probably, probably 12th or 11th or something like that. Or maybe he was 13th. I don't know. But the idea is I'll look at incidents and then healthy car laps and adjust based off the field size, based off of that, each lap by lap, how the field was performing, how tire wear, etc. But Ross, you screwed a guy who's trying to make a name for himself, Brennan Poole. You screwed arguably the fastest car in the race, probably the fastest car in the race, Kyle Larson. For what?
On
For
lap 80.
fucking
I can't get over lap 80. Like, and you know, it was actually one, I'm not glad, but so right before it happened, I had the odds open. I had like FanDuel open, and Larson was like plus 450, and I was like, I'm going to put more money on Larson because that car is so fucking fast. And then that happened, and I'm like, well, good thing I didn't bet. But two, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? I understand, and I don't want people to call us hypocrites because we say that drivers need to have personality, drivers need to be aggressive. Obviously, Ross Chastain's getting the comparison to Dale Earnhardt. I like it. I think NASCAR needs a villain. NASCAR needs another villain. My thing with Ross Chastain is you're not winning races, dude. You've won 2 races in your Cup Series career and 162 starts. I understand he has not been in the best equipment. You've won 2 races in the Xfinity Series in 198 starts. You've won 4 races in the Truck Series in 103 starts. There's a difference between just being an aggressive asshole and being a good driver. And I understand he's leading the points right now. But until these aggressive tactics start turning into wins, I'm going to be on the side of Ross Chastain's just a fucking asshole. And I want someone to hit him in the fucking mouth. Because I think that's what needs to happen. Do you think there are more drivers right now in the garage that are pissed off at Ross Chastain or like him?
Pissed off. I mean, his own teammate was pissed off with him. Coda.
It's insane. And Danielle Trotta on Twitter, I don't know if you saw her tweets.
I have. I think she's a little unfair to him. I mean, she was unfair to him in my opinion in the Harvick Atlanta incident where he didn't touch Harvick, and somehow it still gets blamed. And that's part of the whole hashtag thanks Ross whatever. He's getting blamed for things that aren't his fault. But she absolutely deserved to lay into him here for this one.
Yeah, as I say with him, he doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt right now, and won't for a while because it's not a. If something happens a couple of times, yes, it might be coincidence. But when you're at the center of all of these issues, you're probably the issue, dude. Yep. Whatever the Taylor Swift lyric is, you're the issue. You're the problem. And
maybe instead of Fernando Alonso and Taylor Swift, maybe it should be Ross Chastain and Taylor Swift.
You see, didn't Bubba Wallace had
good songs. Then we get some good songs.
Bubba Wallace had a pretty good comment about that, didn't he? I feel like I saw something, but yeah, Ross Chastain. Like at the same time, like I said, I'm playing both sides here, and I don't care if anybody calls me out on this, but I was halfway rooting for Chastain to wreck Truex for the win. Like I was also rooting for that. Like, but that makes sense to me. That makes sense. If you're going to be the new Dale Earnhardt, and get the win, but don't wreck a back marker on lap 80. That, you know, and obviously it was just bad timing and bad placement, and that's why Kyle Larson got caught up in it. But it's still lap 80. There's no reason for this to be happening. So I don't think Chastain's ever going to change how he races.
No.
And I don't say I want him to, but at the same time, I want someone to punch him in the mouth.
I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. And by the way, I was looking at green flag speed because we were talking about that with like Brennan Poole and all that stuff. So I talked about how Dover, and we'll go into your line about it, but real quick, I want to make this point. We talk about Dover is predictive until it's not, and like chaos ensues at Dover, and it happens at Dover all the time, chaos. But when the chaos didn't happen, the 9 fastest guys in green flag speed, not counting Daniel Suarez, who wrecked way early in the race, the other 9 fastest guys, so first through 10th minus Daniel Suarez, those 9 guys finished first through 9th.
That's what. Yep.
So
I was looking at driver rating from that race, which is obviously a little bit different than green flag speed, but basically the guys that were up front all day stayed up there. You know, unless you had a major issue, like Kevin Harvick, which by the way, I think he was faster than you remember him being. finished 19th, but he was one of the few that
he was outside the top 10 for a lot of the day. Not making hay, and it changed later in the race.
I think you're not remembering it right.
My flags will show you different, I guarantee you.
I hope so, but from what I remember watching Harvick, I think he was a lot better than you think he was. But,
it was later in the race. Later in the race, yes, he got better. But that first 2/3 of the race, he was not good. It was all of a sudden, right before the end of stage 2, though, he corded that tire and lost a lap. And
that's when his day went to shit.
Yeah, but before that, up until about halfway through stage 2, he was literally just running 12th, 10th, 13th, 8th, 9th, etc. throughout the whole first half of the race. 100%.
I think we watched different races, but I could be wrong.
We did not. I was paying attention to Harvick because he was one of the ones that we needed for the 11 to 20 starting position. Yeah. Man, he's just not. He's not moving.
Yeah, you have to let me know your flags metric once you get that done with Harvick.
I will. Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Because we're a day behind. Usually I do flags on Tuesday, but since today is Tuesday of a normal week, it's going to have to be Wednesday. Plus, also, and you and I talked about this on Stacking Dennys last week, that Denny Hamlin bracket thing. Well, the Dirty Mo Media is doing. And so there are some upsets from the other people that are doing it, but Dirty Mo Media is starting it this week. So the actual actions detrimental, Dirty Mo Media, etc. They're starting it this week. So I'm trying to run some simulations for the 5 weeks to fill out my own bracket, essentially to see, kind of what I think of all the various matchups and basically do a March Madness version of this. Hopefully I'm going to get something up on Action Network, but so I was trying to get together data for Kansas this week to run my model. Tomorrow I'm going to have to do flags, but I'm also going to try to simulate the next 4 races as well, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, etc. So it's fun. I'm excited. I get to simulate like 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks ahead of time, but it's going to be a lot of work, and hopefully we'll have some of that stuff up on Action Network. Obviously, we're not going to use it for gambling purposes, but I think the idea is we got a bracket. Let's have some fun with some brackets, right? So, because we make March Madness content at Action Network on brackets. Sean Kerner, my boss, director of predictive analytics, he does an article on here's my March Madness bracket, and so while it's not like bet this guy, bet that guy, whatever, it's like here's how I'm filling out my bracket, which is totally cool per the rules of the Dirty Mo Media. So that's what I'm trying to do is here's how I'm going to fill out my bracket for Dirty Mo Media contests, whatever you want to call it for NASCAR.
Nice.
What's your whine about it?
My whine about it, and it actually kind of segues from the Ross Chastain thing, but overall it's just people that don't understand how to analyze things. And what set this thought off, one, Ross Chastain, because I feel like a lot of people cannot separate sometimes Ross is an asshole and sometimes he's not. And it's black or white for them. They cannot separate it. They cannot do it. But the biggest thing, I saw a tweet today that said Ty Gibbs should be priced in the $9,000 range on DraftKings because of his hot streak. Don't get me wrong. Ty Gibbs is running and getting finishes. Ty Gibbs is getting good finishes right now. Okay. I understand that. I get that that's a hot streak. To do such lazy analysis of this, though, the $9,000 plus range for DraftKings is reserved for guys that can actually dominate the race. Ty Gibbs this season has 44 fastest laps on the entire year. That's less than Austin Dillon. That's less than Eric Almirola. That's less than Josh Berry. Okay?
Who hasn't even started all the races. Yeah.
We go to laps led. Ty Gibbs has led 4 laps this year. Stop making stupid statements like this. Ty Gibbs should not be priced. Ty Gibbs is priced perfectly in the $7,000 range on DraftKings. That's where Ty Gibbs deserves. Yes,
he's 19th in the standings.
He's
19.
getting good. He's getting good finishes. Stop saying that good finishes equal good runs.
Sorry, 18th.
This was the first race that Ty Gibbs legitimately looked good. Okay?
Yeah.
And I will admit that Ty Gibbs looked good. Now let's look at what he actually did in that race. Yes, he was legitimately running top 5. Let's look at fastest laps from Dover. Ty Gibbs, 7. Joey Logano had more. Austin Dillon had more. Like, Kyle Larson, who got wrecked in the beginning of the race, had more fastest laps than Ty Gibbs. Like, stop overblowing finishes. Like, yes, finishing position is great. For DraftKings, it's great. Yes, it is a easy indicator of what drivers are good, but it does not tell the whole story. Stop using one statistic to tell your whole story and cherry picking one statistic to tell your story.
Here's something about Ty Gibbs. So we're going to, you also have to remember, we're going to Kansas this weekend, right? We're going to Kansas. The best comparable track for Kansas, aside from Kansas itself, is Las Vegas. They are the two most similar tracks in all of NASCAR. Ty Gibbs in flags for Vegas earlier this year, 22nd in flags out of 36 drivers, a rating of 0.435, whereas 0.5 is neutral, like you're better than half the field, you're worse than half the field. So 0.435, so 43.5 percentile on a lap-by-lap basis relative to healthy cars, weighted for the number of cars on the track, and weighted for track position as well. Obviously, if you're further in the field, it's harder to go faster, so I take that into account. So
that's
weighted and track position adjusted, 22nd for Ty Gibbs in speed.
He started fourth in that race. Speed. Qualified fourth in that race, finished 22nd, and was not good.
Yeah.
Like,
this is not a $9,000 driver.
No, and he's not, if he ever is, I will go 0% on him. Because tell me you don't understand how DraftKings works without telling me. You don't. And the worst part is this is a guy that gives DFS advice and charges for it. That is just insane to me. I can't get over this.
We'll make bad calls. I made plenty of bad calls. I would agree that is a bad call. So,
this is a different. This isn't a bad call. This is the worst call I've ever heard. Not ever.
I don't know. I don't know if it's the worst call I've ever heard, but there's no chance Ty Gibbs should be $9,000+ on DraftKings.
I'd bitch if he was 8,000. Like, it's just not where he's at right now.
He shouldn't be 8,000 either. I agree. 100% agree.
But yeah, that's my wine about it, and those are our wine about it's presented by Luvabella Winery. As always, I will drop the link. You can get those wines shipped to you. I actually have a shipment coming.
Order those wines. I was to say, I ordered the wines. I actually, have mine coming in a little while as well. But order Luvabella wines because holy shit, they're good. They have a wide variety, a huge selection as well. So you will be able to find something you like. For me, even the ones I don't typically like, even the wines from Luvabella Wines, like the styles, the kinds of wines I typically don't like, the ones I do have are on the better side of the ones, like if I don't like this kind of wine, but if I had to rate that class of wines, Luvabella is always at the top. So, but there's nothing every week I'm going to do it. There's nothing compared to this. Bourbon barrel aged.
I still need. I have it. It's sitting in my kitchen right now. I need to just open it and try it. Maybe I'll do that next week on next week's episode.
It's your birthday, man.
Because I am okay. I can't stress this enough. I'm not a wine guy. I don't like wine.
I understand.
But I like Luvabella wines. It's like I could drink Purple Rain for breakfast. That's how.
And you and I, like you said, we're not going to blow smoke up your ass. If you don't like wine, if you don't like a certain wine, you're going to say it. There was some of the Luvabella wines I was like, this is not for me. But I can understand why other people would like it, type deal. So we're straight shooters. We'll say it like it is. But This, for me, this wine is one of the best I've ever had of any wine, of any type, of any brand, of any company, ever. Period.
Nice.
Get you some.
So, yeah, make sure you check out RotoBaller wine. As always, I'll put the link in the descriptions. I'll tweet it out as well. Kansas Speedway coming up. This is going to be interesting because 2311 swept these races last year. If you remember, Kurt Busch took the first one. Bubba Wallace got in Kurt Busch's car in the second race at Kansas and won that one. Bubba Wallace finished fourth at Las Vegas earlier this year, as you just reminded us how Las Vegas is a very good comparable track to Kansas. Obviously, and no surprise, William Byron and Kyle Larson dominated Las Vegas. William Byron led 176 laps. Kyle Larson led 63 out of the 271. They finished 1-2. Larson was going to win the race. There was a late caution. Byron ended up winning it. He should have. He dominated all day. He won the first two stages. Yep. But I think this. I never know if I really like Kansas or not. And I don't know why, because I feel like it produces really good racing, but it's always just meh for me, and I can't figure out why. But with that being said, with what we saw at Las Vegas earlier this year, sorting by driver rating, because I don't have green flag speed right in front of me. Obviously Hendrick was strong. Alex Bowman was another guy that was really strong. He had the third best driver rating. But then Truex, Hamlin, Chastain, Bubba Wallace, Christopher Bell were the other drivers to have a driver rating over 100 in that race. Can we see back-to-back wins by Toyota this weekend at Kansas? And
100%.
As far as this season goes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, Vegas, most comparable track, like we said. Well, let's look at the flags. 5 of the top 10 were Toyotas. So the top 3 were all Hendrick cars, Larson, Byron, Bowman. But then the next 3 were all Toyotas, Truex, Bubba, Hamlin. And then Bell was 8th, Reddick was 9th. So of the top 9, 5 of them were Toyotas. So more than half of the top 9 were Toyotas. So yeah, absolutely, Toyota can go back to back. To me, and we look at this, to me it's Toyota, Hendrick, Trackhouse. Maybe a guy like Kyle Busch could sneak in there. Maybe a guy like Harvick or Blaney could sneak in there. Maybe a Joey Logano if Hendrick finds their mojo, or not Hendrick, Penske finds their mojo here. But it's a pretty much a 9 or 10 horse race here for me between those 3 teams.
Are you throwing 2311 in with Joe Gibbs Racing?
Yeah, that's why I said Toyota, right? So
I thought you said Gibbs. I thought you said Gibbs.
Maybe I did.
My bad.
But Toyota is what I mean. Yeah, 100% I'm throwing Bubba and Tyler Reddick. This is a very good track for Tyler Reddick. He had driver ratings in the 90s in both races last year, despite having major incidents in both races last year at Kansas. And, not of his fault either, typically. I remember the first race especially, he had a blown tire. So, yeah, I think it's between Hendrick, Toyota, and Trackhouse. And specifically more likely Ross than Suarez. But I wouldn't count Suarez out given some of the speed he's shown at some of these 1.5 miles. Charlotte last year, he arguably could have won the race, arguably had one of the best cars. He's had some incidents in some of these other, like Vegas and Kansas races, that has knocked his green flag speed or his driver rating down. But when we do flags to understand the fact that his car is no longer healthy, he ends up popping. So, if Daniel Suarez can just keep it clean, he will probably have a top 10 car this weekend.
Another guy, you mentioned Tyler Reddick there having very good runs last year. Obviously, Kyle Busch now in that race car. Kyle Busch, the last 2 May races here at Kansas, he's finished 3rd, and he won back in 2021. He also finished 1st or 2nd in both stages. Talked about it before. Is RCR really that good? Is this blowing smoke up our ass with his 2 wins already? guy to keep an eye on. I'm not going to sit here and make a call on Kyle Busch. I'll tell you that.
I don't think we can. I don't think we can make a call on Kyle Busch. This is a tough spot, especially with how bad Austin Dillon's been, how up and down RCR as a whole has been. Mm-hmm. Kyle Busch, he has 2 wins. One of them, he kind of, it was a super speed race, and he was running third, ended up winning. Auto Club, obviously dominant car, but that car was dominant last year with Tyler Reddick. But the mile and a halfs, Reddick was good at Kansas. He was not quite as good at Las Vegas. So it's a tough call with Kyle Busch. Earlier this year, he was 11th in flags at Las Vegas. So is 11th good enough? I mean, he was in raw flags, he was 12th. In weighted flags, he was 11th. And in track position weighted flags, he was 11th. So is that good enough to be a win contender, knowing that was a different track? And Tyler Reddick in this car was a little bit better at Kansas? Yeah, probably. I would say he's in the mix for an out. I wouldn't say outside, but of the favorites, an outside shot at a win. Then there's obviously more outside shots beyond that. But I would say he's right on the border with Daniel Suarez and maybe Ryan Blaney for me on that next tier of drivers that could win outside of what I would call the big 9 of the other 5 Toyotas, that are not Ty Gibbs. I would say Kyle Larson, William Byron, and instead of Alex Bowman, I would throw Chase Elliott in there and Ross Chastain. So the big 9 for me are the non-Josh Berry, the 5 non-Ty Gibbs Toyotas, and Ross Chastain this weekend.
It's hard to argue that. And I'm very interested to see whether Hendrick continues to show this damn speed that they do. I was actually disappointed last week that Byron fell off as much as he did, but as we saw at Las Vegas, they didn't fall off at all. It was the Byron and Larson show at Las Vegas. Other people that are over the last 6 races here at Kansas, top drivers, Truex, Hamlin. There's also been 6 different winners over the last 6 races at Kansas. Hamlin, Larson, Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Joey Logano, and Bubba. Best driver rating over the last 6 races. Larson, he's only raced 4 races, but average driver rating over those 4, 120.6. Denny Hamlin, 107.2. Truex, 103.0. Kurt Busch, 99.3. And then Chase Elliott, like you said. A little bit of an unknown there again with Chase Elliott. You mentioned not including Josh Berry. Alex Bowman's been really good at Kansas.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
In that 48 car.
And Vegas.
Yeah. So...
And Josh Berry has a win in the Xfinity Series at Kansas.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I want to like Josh Berry, but the amount of hype that this guy's getting is becoming annoying to me. So my brain says I don't like him.
I actually had a Josh Berry whine about it that we didn't get into. And it's similar to the Ty Gibbs whine about it. I'm kind of off Ty Gibbs this weekend just because I've seen so many people on Twitter on him this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's kind of similar with Josh Berry. Yeah, okay. Josh Berry's won twice at Las Vegas, so not Kansas in Xfinity. He's won twice at Vegas in Xfinity. And at Kansas, let me look. He finished 7th last year for JR Motorsports. And the year before that, I don't think he raced Kansas. I don't even know if Xfinity raced at Kansas. I'm looking through 2021. He did not race at Kansas that year. He was, splitting time between JR Motorsports, JRM, and Jordan Anderson Racing, so he did not race Kansas. But my Josh Berry whine about it is not so much that people are on him or people are on Ty Gibbs. I won't get off them, although we should default to the larger sample size that these guys are still just kind of, they're not race win contenders. Josh Berry's not out here dominating races. He's not out here getting a ton of fastest laps. But Josh Berry signed with Kevin Harvick International, whatever it's called, management, KHI management, as an agent thing, an agent deal. So people are like, oh, Josh Berry to the 4 next year. No, why are we... maybe it increases it like that much, but like people will blow anything up and be like, this is the thing, this is what's happening. We don't know. It could. But guess who else is KHI management driver? Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Is he going to the Ford next year? Is he going to Stewart-Haas Racing next year? Harrison Burton, is he going to the Ford next year? Is he going to Stewart-Haas Racing next year? Like, come on, this is just a management company. He's just signing with a management company. And the other thing about Josh Berry, he's 32 years old. He'll be 33 by the end of this year. That means next year, he'll be 34 by the end of the year. I'm not saying that's old, but that's old to start a cup career, like a full-time cup career. If I'm, me personally, if I'm Stewart-Haas Racing, and I think Tony Stewart, you know, he wanted Ryan Preece over Cole Custer. Tony Stewart wants drivers. And I'm not saying he doesn't think Josh Berry's a driver, but if he's thinking long-term, he should be fucking signing Zane Smith over Josh Berry. If it came down to those two, you sign the 23-year-old who's just whipping ass over Josh Berry, who's like good but not whipping ass. Very good. Has some wins, but not like whipping ass like Zane Smith is.
Yeah, I saw the comments once he signed with Kevin Harvick Management or whatever, about him going to Ford. Here's the thing. The driver that Hendrick Motorsports trusts to drive and fill in the number 9 and the 48 in the same year without hesitation, Chevy and Hendrick are not letting him go. Like, they're not just going to let him go over to Ford. There's no way this happens, in my opinion. I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I just don't see it happening at all.
I think the other thing is, we know Hendrick doesn't have any room in the stable right now. So, and the other thing is, Dale Jr. would be happy to see one of his guys. Josh Berry is one of Dale Jr.'s guys. See him graduate into a cup ride, and right now the cup ride isn't available at Hendrick. So I think it is possible.
There's talk about Junior getting a cup charter, though.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. That's also possible. But what I'm saying is, just because he's signing, and you're making this point too, just because he signs with KHI management doesn't mean he's going to Ford all of a sudden. No. So I agree with you there, like 100%. But I don't think it's a non-zero chance. I just think people are blowing this up out of proportion for no reason. No, I shouldn't say no reason, but for something to me that isn't significantly increasing the chances of that. Otherwise, why aren't we shouting Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to the 4, or Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to Eric Almirola's car or something like that? So just one of those things that I noticed on Twitter today was a lot of, Josh Berry's going to take over for Kevin Harvick. For me, screw that. I don't want Josh Berry taking over that car, because you're not getting anything from that if you're Stewart-Haas Racing. You're getting a guy who is still going to be learning the ropes, ending the season at 34 years old. And it usually takes a couple of years to season yourselves in this series, in that upper series. You better be doing that with the 23-year-old instead.
I could see, though, like with the amount of experience that he's getting in these Hendrick cars, where Stewart-Haas, they need someone to run decent. Like, they're losing their workhorse next year. Oh, yeah. So that's where I could see, that I think there'd definitely be interest from Stewart-Haas's side, outside of looking for the future. But, that's definitely.
That's where I thought Eric Jones would be perfect, but obviously I think that ship sailed.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. And I think pretty much a lot of people think Zane Smith's going to front row next year, right?
Yeah, I think so too, but a guy that talented, he shouldn't be going to front row. He should be going to Stewart-Haas Racing.
Possible.
He's more talented than Ryan Preece. He's more talented than Cole Custer.
A lot of people are more talented than Cole Custer.
And Ryan Preece.
Yeah.
Ryan Preece is not all that. A lot of people were on like Ryan Preece at Dover. I saw a lot of that this week. Finished 17th. He did fine. He didn't. He's 23rd in green flag speed. I think we'll see what happens with flags. but I think his 17th place finish was a little flattering. So he's not good, man. Like, he's not Cole Custer bad, but he's not that.
He has his tracks that he's good at, but he's one of those where, like, certain tracks he's really, really, really good at. Everywhere else he's below average. So
yeah, I agree.
You always get caught up in that potential, when in reality that potential only exists at certain tracks. A couple things, digging a little deeper into Kansas. There are a couple of drivers, talked about them earlier. The two good Penske drivers, Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano, have very interesting histories here at Kansas. Ryan Blaney tends to run really well here for the first 2/3 of the race. You look at the last 12 races here at Kansas, he's finished in the top 10 in the stages, top 9 in the stages, actually, all but 4 times. So out of 24 times, 20 of the stages, he has finished in the top 10. You know how many top 10 finishes he has in the last 10 races here? 3. You know how many top 5 finishes he has here since joining Penske? 0. He has never finished top 5 at Kansas in a Penske car. That's just weird to me. Like,
that's weird to me.
It is. So then I pulled up Joey Logano. He won here in 2020. You know how many top 5s he has here since 2018? 1. His win in 2020. Wow. You know how many finishes better than 9th he has here over that same span? 1.
2?
Or
1.
No, just his win. Wow. Every other finish is 15th or worse. Like, and he doesn't even run as well as Blaney does here. He only has 4 stage top 10s in the last 12 stages. Wow. So
that's amazing.
It's just weird, especially Blaney, man, because it doesn't make sense how consistently you can have that bad luck. And I know we talk about bad luck with Ryan Blaney a lot, but that is like peak bad luck, because there's a lot of finishes. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stage top 4s over the last 20 stage places, and not a single top 5 finish to back it up. That's wild. It is crazy.
That is wild. Yeah,
so
you could throw a blanket over Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, and Kevin Harvick for 11th, 12th, and 13th in terms of win probability this weekend. So yeah, not looking great for the Penske crew here, Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano. And we've already talked about the struggles they've been having just overall this year, how maybe RFK is the premier Ford team. I don't think RFK is going to contend for a win here either. Don't get me wrong. If we look at the Fords at Las Vegas in terms of flags, it was – now I lost my spreadsheet that I was on for flags. Here we go. It was – of the Fords, it was Kevin Harvick 12th overall, Brad Keselowski 13th, Ryan Blaney 14th, Eric Almirola 15th, and Joey Logano 18th were the top 5 Fords in flags at Las Vegas. And the best one was 12th.
That was going back to Joey Logano here quick. So when I pulled up the opening odds for this weekend's race, you can get him at 25-1. And at first I was like, that seems out of place. Now that I actually look at it, it really doesn't. That seems completely right.
You can get him 30-1 at Westgate.
Can you?
Superbook, I think. Isn't Superbook Ohio now too?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you can get 30-1 at Superbook.
I'm not saying I'm betting it, but I'm just saying it's like one of those. It doesn't make sense till you actually look at it.
Exactly. I was like, damn, Joey at 30. That, like, what the hell? And then you think about it. You look at the data. You look at the stats, and it's like, yeah, I understand it. I still show value on it in my model. I show value at 30-1. I technically, for me, Joey Logano is a plus EV bet at 30-1. I haven't bet it yet. I haven't made any outright bets yet. I haven't made any cup bets yet. I did bet Ross Chastain 18-1 in trucks, but I've made no cup bets yet. It doesn't mean I won't, and it doesn't mean I'm not showing value. I'm just choosing to be picky, with my bets. This is going to be a good track for practice, so I don't see any reason to not wait for practice, look at fall off. Remember Vegas was like that track where everybody like whiffed on the Penskes, and I was like, you had to look at the fall off, man. And then next week, everybody's looking at the fall off, and everybody's trying to pull these charts out. And I'm like, yeah, I did that last week, and now everybody's copying me. It's because I pointed it out and I slayed that week, whatever it was. So.
Yeah. But as far as, of the opening odds, I was a little surprised. You can get Byron at 8-1, which I was surprised he wasn't priced there more with Larson, who's at plus 550 over on Bet Rivers. But Byron 8-1 on BetMGM, I like it. I haven't bet it. Yeah, he has zero top fives here
now, right? Or is he?
Is it?
Now? I see. So I've got action. Oh, he drifted to 8. He opened at 7 at BetMGM. Now he's 8. He was 7 earlier today at BetMGM. 8 is getting close. So I don't quite have value on him at 8-1, but it's really close. And it's like one of those things where it's like, depending on the model I use, depending on the data I use, etc., I could make a case for him at 8-1. And right there, like PJ Walsh, my coworker at Action Network, edits a lot of my NASCAR articles, NASCAR Mind himself. He's ready to fire on Byron at 7-1. So, yeah.
I think with how Hendrick, if I'm going to make any bet before practice, it's going to be Byron. With how Hendrick is practicing this year, with the speed that they're showing week in, week out, I think getting him at 8-1 is solid. The only knock you could have on Byron, he has one top 5 finish here at Kansas ever. It was a 5th place back in 2019. But here's the thing. What we're seeing from William Byron this year is ridiculous how fast he is. He has led in 5 of the last 6, or actually 7 of the last 8 races here at Kansas. I'm talking myself into this Byron 8-1 because
that's the thing for me is, so I have Kyle Larson at depending on the model I use, anywhere from plus 535 to like closer to plus 750, plus 800. And the one model where he's like plus 535, he's a big gap from Byron. But in that second model, he's a much smaller gap to Byron. And so if I were to use the second model, well, I still don't quite show value on William Byron. I think it makes a lot more sense than the first model. Now, the second model was a hand-picked model. I don't like to do hand-picked models because I like to make everything automated, have the machine pick the model for me, pick the variables, it's just 100% a straight algorithm, so it takes my bias out of it. But I feel like my hand-picked algorithm, where I'm weighing this year a lot more than last year, seems more fitting towards what my brain would say, what the eye test would say, etc. So it's tough for me. I'm probably just going to look for situations to, bet a group of cars again this week. And it's not as bad as Dover last week where there was a lot of incidents, 18, 22% incident rate. Here we're looking at 12 to 16, 17% incident rate as like the main range of outcomes. That doesn't mean it's going to stay in that range, but that's like the main range of outcomes. So it's tough. That's why I haven't made any bets, but I would 100% agree. I would consider him at 8-1. I'd consider a lot of guys this weekend, like Ross Chastain for me. He opened 15. I'm showing value on him at 15-1. Now, my original model was 25 cents of value, 14.75 instead of 15. My secondary model, the one that I like more, is at plus 1200. So definitely 14 or 15-1 if you can get him at that. That model of the two likes it, which is my hand-picked weighing certain things more model. And I have value on that model on Bubba Wallace as well, but not on the first model that the machine's picking out. So it all just kind of depends. So I think there's still enough. We're early enough in the season still. We've only had one similar track where there's still enough uncertainty that I kind of just want to find these group bets. Because, right, if we get to the point where we're looking at, let's say starters 11 through 20, all of a sudden you have 10 drivers. So if you're high on one, you might be low on another. It smooths things out more. Like if you're accidentally too high on this driver, accidentally too low on this driver, and then they're in the same group, well, it smooths it out to almost equal. So that's why I'm probably going to just stick with those again this week until at least we see practice. Hopefully we get practice qualifying in this week. I know we had practice last week, but I didn't really want to use that practice data much because of the misting situations, etc. So that's kind of where I'm going into this week in terms of betting. I've made 0 bets, and I'm totally cool with that once again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, that's the only bet that's really sticking out to me, that if I'm going to bet before practice, it's going to be that. And the fact that it's on BetMGM is stopping me from making that, because I hate that BetMGM app. Better than that, Reddick's out there at 8-1 as well, as is Hamlin. Truex is at 9-1. Bell at 9-1. Going a little further down as far as drivers that are popping off that, maybe worth a sprinkle. I'm not really seeing much. I'm really not.
What do you think of, okay, let's throw this out there. Chase Elliott at 14-1 at the Canby books. I'm not on it myself, but it's like any other time situation, we'd be like, Elliott at 14, that's pretty good value.
Right now, Chase Elliott is halfway dead to me. He is a previous winner here at Kansas. I'll give him that. Obviously, it's a Hendrick car. He's another one that last 9 races, last 18 stages, he only has one result outside the top 10. Maybe, I don't know. I'd rather be on Byron 8 than Elliott 14 until Chase can show me race winning speed with his legs. But I do get, if I'm going to bet anyone in the 14 range, give me Chastain, like you said.
Yeah.
I'm taking Chastain over Elliott every single time this week.
100%. Yeah.
So.
All right, here's a question for you that I have. Outside of 17 drivers, and really I shouldn't even say 17. Let's say 14 drivers. Let's say the 5 non-Gibbs Toyotas. Let's say the 3 non-Barry Hendrick drivers. So now we're up to 8.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the 2 Trackhouse drivers. So that's 10. Kyle Busch is 11. Kevin Harvick is 12. Blaney and Logano are 13 and 14. Can anybody win this race?
Outside of those?
Outside of those 14. So best options would be, let's say, Keselowski, Gibbs, Barry, Cinder, Almirola, Stenhouse.
My initial gut was Keselowski because he was really good here in Penske when he was with Penske. His last, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, last 6 starts with Penske, he had 4 top 5s, including a win back in 2019. Mm-hmm. But, we go back to the Las Vegas race, and I don't have it right in front of me, but I feel like even for
13th in flags.
Yeah. So no, I don't think anyone outside of those guys can win it.
Now the question is, do we narrow it even further? Do we think the Penske guys, either of them, can win it? Because they were slower than Keselowski in flags.
I don't think the Penske. I don't think you can include the Penskes, and I wouldn't include Suarez.
You wouldn't include Suarez. I think that's interesting because he dominated-ish a portion of Charlotte last year, Michigan last year, and one of the Kansas or Vegas races. I forget which one. He led over 30 laps in at least 3 intermediates last year.
Say it with me, Nick. Personal bias.
That's fair.
I don't like him. And
Oh, I don't either. Remember, I took his under half a win this year, but I said if he wins, it's gonna have to be at a road course, a super speedway, or maybe an outside shot at an intermediate.
Yeah, I don't think Suarez can challenge for this win.
I think
if I had a field versus Suarez bet, I would unload my entire bankroll on the field.
At what minus number, right?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It could be minus $1 million and I'd still bet it. That's how confident. That's how confident I am.
But also, okay, so you remember I said, and so we were hanging out with PJ and we were all drinking. We were shit faced. It was Indy 500 weekend, Monaco, Coca-Cola 600, and half of NASCAR betting Twitter was on Suarez for the 600. And I'm like, dude, if he wins, I will literally eat shit. And then he was leading like 30, 40 laps of that race. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me. So that was a really bad call by me. But like that always sticks in my mind at these 1.5 mile tracks now. It's like Suarez, like he's led some laps at some of these intermediates. Like Michigan last year, he had one of the best cars until he had contact in some incident. I don't remember. It was probably Ross's fault. I don't even know. I'm just kidding. But if it's the point where he's actually leading and contending instead of the middle of the race was the end of the race, he could win this. So I think he has an outside shot. Whereas, this point last year, I was like, no chance. Like, what are these people talking about? It's Daniel Suarez. Dude has no wins ever in Cup. He's on the Matt DiBenedetto, the Daniel Hemrick level. No, he's elevated from there in terms of the level of driver he is. I mean, to be fair, Daniel Suarez has wins in Xfinity much more than, he's 10 Xfinity wins, whereas Matt DiBenedetto has 0, Daniel Hemrick has 1, and in trucks, Matt DiBenedetto has 1, and Daniel Hemrick has 0. So, at least Daniel Suarez, 10 was his peak Mexico, I'm sorry. In Xfinity, he has 3, and in trucks, he has 1, and in Cup, he has 1. So he has 5 career wins in NASCAR's National Series, which is still 2.5 times as many as Hemrick and DiBenedetto have combined.
I don't want to give him any credit ever.
I understand. Well, okay, so here's the other thing. And this is one of the ones where you and I, we can get heated with each other, but, it was all right, we gotta chill on this. Was the Harrison Burton thing coming from Xfinity to Cup? You were 100% right on that, so I'll just tip my cap to you there. This dude needs to be out of a ride after this year. He's not good. Aside from the super speedways, he's not good. He's not good.
And you can't blame Wood Brothers. I understand
Blaney did great. Paul Menard did good. This is bad.
And he's almost gotten worse from his rookie year, which is saying something.
He's 30th in points now. I believe last year he finished inside the top 29, right? So
yeah, I'm quickly pulling this up or trying to.
27th last year.
I can't remember a race that there has ever been a tweet or a mention on TV oh, that's a pretty good run for Harrison Burton, like we're seeing with Corey LaJoie, like we're seeing with Todd Gilliland, which for whatever reason Fox refuses to cover Todd Gilliland. But yeah, he's almost a full 3 positions worse this year in average finish than he was last year, which shouldn't be happening if you had any talent. So yeah, that was a weird point out of just Harrison Burton sucks ass.
Well, because you have your drivers that you're like, these guys suck, like Austin Dillon, Daniel Suarez. There was another one you had for a while there. I forget. Oh, Matt DiBenedetto. No, it wasn't Matt DiBenedetto. Somebody. You had this I remember there was 3 or 4 drivers. Oh, Daniel Hemrick. That you always just were there was this group of 3 or 4 that I could be like, this is Jordan's DFS lineup, his favorite DFS lineup, and it was like
Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin for sure.
David fucking
Harrison
Starr.
Burton, after 2 years ago, I mean, Harrison Burton 100% in there. Harrison Burton probably be leading that lineup right now, I think. Like, at least Austin Dillon has shown flashes at a few tracks here and there over his career. He's actually should have won a race or two based off of having the best car. There was a Richmond race he should have won. The Texas race that he did win, he was very much in contention. Michigan, when Keselowski took him out after a stage ended, he was a top 3 car, right? Like, there's races that's happened with Austin Dillon where he's legitimately been a top 3 car. That's not even... Harrison Burton's never been a top 10 car. Not top 3, top 10. He's never been a top 10 car. Yeah, he has 2 top 10 finishes, but he's never been a top 10 car, period, ever.
I'd argue he's never been a top 15 car.
I think there may be a couple, like, legitimate, like, maybe Indy Road Course, because he practiced really well there, ran really well there all day, and then finished third when, obviously, shit hit the fan, but he was in position the whole race to finish there. And then certain super speedways, right? But that doesn't, I don't really count super speedways for talent.
Yeah. Sticking here with some of the mid to lower tier guys, we like these underdogs. A couple guys to keep an eye on this week. Looking back at Las Vegas earlier this year, Justin Haley finished 8th in that race. Now, obviously, he did not have an 8th place car, but he was 17th in green flag speed, which for him and where that team is running this year, very solid run. You look at his track record here at Kansas, he finished 19th last year in this College car. Someone to keep an eye on there, as is Corey LaJoie. He finished 20th at Vegas earlier this year, 23rd in green flag speed. And Eric Jones was actually pretty decent in that race, 18th in green flag speed, finished 19th, which, obviously how
Vegas,
that team's running now. Yeah.
Justin Haley, you mentioned, you were just talking, that's kind of where you let off.
Yeah.
16th in track position weighted flags at Vegas. 16th. That's really good.
Yeah.
Harrison Burton, 31st. You know who was an absolute shitbox at Vegas?
Cody Ware.
Chase Briscoe was like literally a shitbox.
Oh, I remember that
Vegas.
race.
And I think at Auto Club too, I think he was a shitbox. Like that team, that specific 14 team, not Stuart Haas, but just Chase Briscoe himself, was like a shitbox for those 2 races, those 2 intermediates.
Was Vegas a race with your flags that Cody Ware was like unrecognizably
That was
bad?
Auto Club. Cody Ware was unrecognizably bad. At least Cody Ware at Vegas was 7% in flags out of 100%.
So looking at green flag
Vegas,
speed.
Or at Auto Club, I should say, Cody Ware was like 0.3% or something. Like you said, unrecognizably bad.
Cody Ware, green flag speed at Las Vegas, 10 miles an hour off of Byron, who was number 1 in green flag speed. Now, obviously, that's kind of expected, but then you look at Cody Ware was 4 miles an hour slower than BJ McLeod in green flag speed. Like, Cody Ware is so bad.
Yeah.
That was you sent me the Rick Ware Racing thing, and that's kind of making its rounds on Twitter this week, or tonight, I guess, because I don't know who runs their social media account, but they have the same tendencies that Cody Ware had when he wasn't in jail. Is he in jail? I don't even know. Is he still? I
don't even know if he's still in jail or not. I think he bailed, bonded, whatever out. But I mean, I would assume Rick Ware at least is able to find the money for that. But
his bond was $3,000.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I think. It very well could be Cody Ware who's actually running the social media for that team right now.
But yeah, for some reason, who's ever running it, I'm just going to assume it's Cody Ware, thinks it's a good idea to respond to the haters or the keyboard warriors, as Mike Joy would say. By the way, I cannot fucking stand Mike Joy. Can we get him out of the booth?
Here's the thing. I used to love Mike Joy 15 years ago. Yeah. He is dead to me as far as
he's completely lost it.
Broadcaster. Yeah, he's out of it. He's so beyond where he needs to be. And it sucks because you and I have this opinion, but like everybody's like on Twitter is like, Mike Joy is a gem, a national treasure of NASCAR. Blah, blah. That's great. He was. He's not now. He's not. It's just like having, I don't know, let's say Mark Martin racing Cup right now. It's just not. It's not a thing that should happen. Love Mark Martin. He's a gem, but he should not be racing Cup right now. Love Mike Joy. He's a gem, but he should not be commentating Cup anymore at this point.
He's. I don't want to say that he has cognitive issues, but he's definitely just not up to speed with NASCAR anymore. Just like he barely even knows the rules. Like when Larson went to the garage at Dover, he's like, "Oh, his day's done." No, he went there to make more repairs, and everybody and this is now on Fox for not getting in his ear and saying, "Hey, by the way, Larson's not done for the day," because 20 minutes went by, and then they showed Larson in the back out, and then Mike Joy was like surprised. He was he's like surprised that he came back out. It's like, do you not know this? Like, but you know who I'd love to hear in the booth? Future Hall of Famer Bob Pockrass.
Oh my God!
I think he would be awkward in the booth, just because of his style, like and everything. But he would be so knowledgeable that because he knows everything. So I feel like that's a good booth dynamic to have. Is you have the idiots like, I don't want to say idiots. You have the idiots like Rick Allen, and then the guys that are a little bit losing their edge like Mike Joy. Get someone like Pockrass in there and give him free reign to correct these guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that would be very entertaining.
It would be
just that type of dynamic. But yeah, Rick Ware Racing, honestly, for whatever reason.
If Pockrass was just in the booth for one race, dude, that has to happen. How has Fox not taken this and run? I mean, they have Pockrass segments on everything else. The falling over bouncy castles and shit.
Tackling little kids.
How can you not put him in the booth? How can you not put... Okay, and the best part was that segment came like right after Ross dumped Brennan Poole or whatever. And I searched Twitter for this. I was the only one... And Fox tweeted it out on their Fox NASCAR or whatever. And everybody's replying like, he chastained him. I'm like, how am I the only person on all of Twitter that said Poc Ross? When everybody's talking about getting chastained. I'm like, he's Poc Ross.
That's funny. I missed that. I must have missed that.
It was a good tweet. I thought it was top notch. I think I got like 3 likes, and I was pissed. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. But it's the new Elon Twitter. Like, my reach is totally dead these days on Twitter.
I can't even log in half the days on
Oh, dude, I literally reset my whole computer, like deleted all cookies, because I could not log into Twitter on my computer, like on desktop. My app was fine, but like I had to go through like the Authenticator app, and I would do it, and it would log me in and just immediately log me out.
Yeah,
and I did like
that's what it does.
So like the whole fucking day, I couldn't even log in. Now I'm back into Twitter, but all of my settings I have dark mode on Twitter, and I'm sitting here staring at a bright white screen on desktop. Twitter is so broken. It's like unusably broken. But I'm going to give you shit for paying $8 to Elon every month.
Oh, I canceled that, by the way.
All right, because you still have the blue check mark.
I know, but I think it ends on May 5th, so it won't be there for very long. But anything else you want to talk about on Kansas? Because I feel like shitting on Elon is a perfect segue into random fantasy racing. So we'll get to our random fantasy racing picks and our race to win picks. I think this is going to be the last random fantasy racing picks, though, because
we need to find a new segment or something. Start our own random fantasy.
I'm sure what's his name that runs it will be able to find something else to do this, but it's definitely not going. Yeah,
Luvender. Steve Luvers.
But so yeah, the Twitter API goes from like, I forget what he said, like
$1,000 to 42 grand.
Yeah, like just a massive jump, which I'm sure Elon did the 42 grand because of 420 or something, like something fucking like that.
Or yeah, maybe it's 100 to 42 grand. Yeah,
I think it was something stupid. But this is likely the last week
per month. Yeah,
yeah, this is likely the last week that we will be able to do this segment. So just to recap your recent run of doc blocks, Cody Ware, who was then arrested. Ty Dillon, who just always junk. Then you had Larson at Talladega, who almost got killed, literally.
Literally. And they're still investigating what happened to that car.
And then Alex Bowman at Dover, who broke his back before
he even got to Dover. The best part was week 4, all that stuff. I won a race, and you know how I'm like the Daniel Hemrick or the Matt DiBenedetto of Random Fantasy. So Steve Luvender's like, you winning just sent everything into a tizzy, and literally everything's been into a tizzy since then, as far as like my drivers. So, what the fuck? Okay, so you said Daniel Suarez cannot win this week. You failed to mention because he's doc blocked.
Why do you think I said that? Why do you think I said that? He might not even make it to the racetrack.
Okay, I'm changing my model right now to Daniel Suarez, 0% chance of winning. Here's that. I've been down on these beers tonight. I've actually been really good about not drinking a lot lately, but it's your birthday, man. I gotta crack some beers and stack some Dennys.
You know what's funny is I had this conversation. This is a little off topic, but I had this conversation last week with one of my friends. I was like, it's been a while since I got really drunk and really hungover. Like I've been pretty because the only thing to do in this town is drink. But I was like, it's been a while since I got really drunk, got really hungover. Friday night, I woke up Saturday with probably the worst hangover I've had in years. Yeah. And once I finally recovered from that, I went out and I was telling my friends, I was like, it's been a while since I puked from drinking. Like, it's probably been 6 months. Sunday, we had Sunday fun day. That's probably an understatement. For the number, I basically said I'm starting my birthday week off, and I don't want to know how many shots we took and how many beers we had. I know I switched to liquor at some point, but I then woke up Monday morning puking my brains out and was on my deathbed all day. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with drinking.
I honestly can't tell you the last time I puked from drinking.
33 hit me hard.
Yeah. Definitely. I legitimately can't tell you the last time I puked from drinking. I will say it was probably shortly after my divorce / brother dying. So maybe 2020. But it was like later into the year in 2020. That all happened in 2019. I technically got divorced April 2020. So I think it happened like summer 2020 was the last time I puked from drinking. But prior to that, so, I'm a Kyle Kirkwood fan. We've got it right here. I'm a Jeff Gordon fan, and Greg Moore was my first open-wheel driver. Those are the 3 drivers I've been, hardcore about. If I had to put, a Mount Rushmore of drivers, who would go number 4 on there, right?
Denny Hamlin.
No. I make a pick about him every week. In my DFS picks.
Paul Menard.
Yeah, he would be my
I don't know why I blanked there. I'm blaming it on the clock. It's 12:20 here.
So, I think the last time I really puked from drinking was his win. I got shit-faced the night before in 2011. Well, no, okay, so it's not been that long. I think there's been 1 or 2 since then. But I very specifically remember this. I didn't, technically see his win because I was in the bathroom, but I heard his win on the TV, but I was in the bathroom puking during his win over Jeff Gordon. And like I said, Jeff Gordon is my all-time favorite NASCAR driver. From the toilet while I was puking, I was rooting for Paul Menard over Jeff Gordon because I wanted Paul Menard to win a race. Even though I am the biggest Jeff Gordon fan you will ever see, along with everybody else who's the biggest Jeff Gordon fan you'll ever see. But I really am. It's the only time I've ever rooted against Jeff Gordon.
I miss Paul Menard.
Hungover.
I miss Paul Menard's face. Too. His wide range of facial expressions.
Yeah, the sideburns and no emotion whatsoever.
But anyway,
dude,
yeah.
Even his winning interview. Like, go watch his winning interview, which again was from the best season of all time, 2011. He's not even emotional. I won. That was cool. Like,
yeah, he just won the Brickyard.
Fuck.
Hey, some people are like that. Some people are like that. I'm like that. And like there was I went to Atlantic City one time with one of my friends, and I ended up winning like $14,000 on a slot machine, and I basically showed no emotion at all.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Are you not excited?" I'm like, I don't get super pumped about it. Like, I don't know.
I think we were talking about that last week. Like, you and I don't get really high on these wins anymore.
Right.
Maybe initially in our careers or whatever. But once we do this, as long as we've done it, like, those things are like, I had a great week last week. I tweeted, I had a great week this past weekend. I tweeted, good betting weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. The ultimate Paul Menard tweet right there.
Yeah. I just, now, again, Kyle Kirkwood was different. That is a top 2 sporting moment of all time. Way different. Even then, I felt like wasn't like, whoa! You know, I was just like, it was exciting. But it's probably just because I'm getting, you turned 33, I'm about to turn 40 in 6 months. So I guess it's just part of getting older.
But getting back here to Random Fantasy Racing, like we said, Suarez is dock blocked. I have Eric Jones.
Former team.
As does the guy that is leading the Underdog Cup by 30 points, I will note. Just having an absolutely awful season. I will, looks like he did have his best finish of the season at Dover with AJ Allmendinger, who finished 18th. But still, average finish of 31.0 this year. He has Eric Jones as well.
His odds to finish as the underdog has to be minus 10,000.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it would be different if he had Kyle Larson and the next person had, you know, Cody Ware or somebody in jail. It might be like minus 2 or 3, 400 then. But having Eric Jones, who's had an absolute garbage year, Legacy themselves having an absolute garbage year, dude's got to be minus 10,000 to win the Underdog Cup, which is insane.
If Random Fantasy Racing goes away.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it does go away.
Yeah. But Influencer Cup, you're 4th, solidly 50 points ahead of 5th place. So solid effort there. I just can't believe this. Like you tweeted, Steve, who runs this game or created it. Like, we actually have a segment about this on our podcast every week. I mean, it's always fun, something to talk about, you know? And this is just, it's so dumb that this is going away.
I know. There's no need for that. Other than one guy being an idiot. And it's really unfortunate. Because what Steve has built is a community with a completely ridiculous game. Let's be real. Like, this is ridiculous, but we love it. We enjoy it. It's fun. Is Doc Blocked a real thing? I don't know, but we made it a real thing. It's right. Like, it's the most ridiculous shit ever, but we love it. And that's part of living life, and it's getting ruined. And that sucks. That sucks, because there's a lot of people, not just me and you, not just our listeners. Look at all the fucking people that play this damn game for no reason other than it's hilarious. It's fun. And let's even, like, like even okay, let's just look at the Influencer Cup standings, which is everybody who's played all of the races this year. Well, they only show the top 100. But even just going through like who has made all 11 starts this year, I can go down as far as I can see somebody in 11 place that has made 11 starts. I see somebody 1638, right? Like, not all of those people have made all 11 starts, but here we go. Oh, this is our guy, David Hanks. Out of 2643 people who have made even just one start, he's in 1793rd. And we're talking somebody who has 2 starts is ahead of him.
That's so awesome.
In points. Somebody who has 2 starts is ahead of him in points. And he's made all 11 starts so far this year. That is how futile this guy's year has gone. But
I think
that's why we love it. It's fun.
I think he actually tweeted that because I followed him last week after.
I did too. You and I both did.
I will note one thing, and if this doesn't go away, I might just stop playing until it does. Guess how many starts I have?
69? No, 420? No. I don't know.
169 starts.
Nice. I knew it had something to do with one of those.
Yep. One win. I had one win back in 2019.
Even more futile than me.
And it was Truex at Sonoma.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. I had 200. Oh, sorry. No, that's points this year. I had 180 starts and 2 wins. Alex Bowman last year at Vegas. And Kyle Larson this year at Richmond. So apparently Hendrick Motorsports is my team. Oh, God. Nice. The number of points I've accumulated over the 180 starts is 3,666. You always got to find some kind of number.
So when Suarez is definitely dock blocked this weekend and gets 3 points.
3,667. Let's go.
Oh, man. Picks to win, though. You unfortunately picked the fastest car last week and got chastained. I had Hamlin, who finished 5th. Who you got this week for Kansas?
This is an interesting one. I think this is going to be a fun race. I'm going to go... Honestly, I'm going to go with a guy that was really good at Kansas, both Kansas races last year. Had some bad luck and is now probably on a team that's even better suited to win Kansas. I'm going to take Tyler Reddick.
I figured you were going that way. I figured. That's a solid pick. I like it. And by the way, we're both tied right now. We each have 5 top 5 finishes this year.
I have, 2 wins, though?
Shh.
Tiebreaker.
Yeah. I have a better average finish, though.
That's true, but...
Remember, finish doesn't isn't indicative of
damn it.
Great runs. But okay, you got Reddick for Kansas. I'm not gonna go I'm not gonna go the easy route and go Larson.
Going Byron,
but I'm gonna go the second easiest route, and I'm gonna go William Byron.
Say, you're going Byron. I kind of knew that. I didn't want to take Byron just because I figured you were gonna take him, but. Also, I think Reddick's a good pick.
Yeah.
Plus, 23-11 won both races last year at Kansas. In the 45 car. The 45 car won both races last year.
Yeah. And Reddick was super fast in the 8 car last year. I could definitely see Reddick winning this race.
He opened 12-1 at Westgate. I didn't bet him. He's 8 now.
Yeah. He moved.
I was very heavily considering. He opened what was it, 8.5 at Will Hill / Caesars and moved to 750 instantly. And then he opened 12 at Westgate. I still didn't bet him simply because I was just like, I don't really want to make any individual bets yet. So now he's 8. And I don't feel bad about missing that or anything.
Action site is showing that he opened 14 somewhere. Really? On my end.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I don't know where that was at, but I'd assume
must have been Canby.
Yeah, had to be, because out of the ones that these are tracking, or the action is tracking, it's either Canby or DraftKings that come out first.
You're right. I'm assuming Canby, honestly.
By the way,
I was gonna say, what bet do you have on the practice qualifying race winner manufacturer driver bet?
For those that don't know and don't
haven't taken it down now, but
damn it, but that aren't on Twitter. Nick tweeted this out earlier today. DraftKings Sportsbook, in their never-ending quest to be just an absolute fucking dumpster fire,
shitbag show. Oh god,
had a race-winning manufacturer under
qualifying practice bet. Yeah,
practice / qualifying with Chevrolet
free practice, Formula One free practice.
Yeah, free practice winner. Chevrolet. These are the 7 options in this group, I guess. I don't know. Chevrolet, Toyota, Eric Jones, Austin Cindric, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Dillon, and Ford. What is this?
I can't even describe how bad that is.
But then, like, I'll go back to last week.
I'm literally in tears.
Like,
oh, God.
Because someone tweeted me and it was like, FanDuel is just as bad. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, they're really not. But FanDuel closed and reopened lines last week of head-to-heads with Alex Bowman in them. Like, after practice and then qualifying got rained out.
Too, right? Yeah.
Like, what is going on?
FanDuel hasn't even posted lines yet this week.
I know.
I know we're a day behind, but what the fuck?
Yeah.
Remember when everybody at the beginning of the year was like, NASCAR offering bettors or books are offering so many more markets on NASCAR this year. It's amazing. Dude, this is worse than last year by a country mile. Goddamn country mile.
Can you believe I'm looking at head-to-heads on DraftKings right now? Can you believe at a non-super speedway race there's a head-to-head Kyle Busch versus Bubba Wallace? -110 on both sides.
I can believe it, but
I do
a year and a half ago.
Exactly. I think Bubba can compete this weekend. I really do.
100%. I mean, he was right there in the top 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, in Vegas last year when he wrecked Kyle Larson. Finished, 3rd at Vegas this year? 4th? Something like that?
I think it was 4th. And I want to say
Kansas last year. In the first Kansas race last year, he had all those fucking pit stop issues. His team screwed him over 2 or 3 times. He kept driving through the damn field.
I want to say he had pit stop issues at Kansas or Vegas earlier this year too.
He might have. Yeah, I don't remember. But he was fast as shit in green flag or flags, I should say. He was. Let's see. Find the right one. 5th in flags, track position flags, the true real flags. I'm just gonna call it flags from now on. He was 5th, behind Larson, Byron, Bowman, who's not here this weekend, Truex, then him, then Hamlin.
Speaking of, we'll close this out on that note. What does Alex Bowman missing this race do to everybody else, do you think?
It's pretty big, actually.
Yeah, he's been so good here.
He's been really good at these tracks, Kansas, Vegas, especially. Like he's absolutely slayed the last 2 years at both these tracks in every single race. So it's pretty big. It's honestly pretty big. I haven't run a model with what it would be if he was in that car because he's not. But I probably should. He'd probably take up 8-10 win percent, which for him would probably be an all-time peak in his career in terms of my model. So it's very big. This very much seems like I said 9-car race, but that was with Alex Bowman in the car, and then Chase Elliott. But I'm not quite sure Chase Elliott is there yet. Still, like we were saying. So it's probably really an 8-car race between the 5 Toyotas, Kyle Larson, William Byron, and Ross Chastain, because Daniel Suarez is dock blocked.
I was just going to bring up Daniel Suarez. I'm once again scrolling these head-to-heads. Daniel Suarez versus Ty Gibbs, -110 on each side.
Yeah, I saw that one too. I would bet Daniel Suarez easily there, and actually, I almost did. And then
Until you realized he was dock blocked.
Well, I was gonna say, let me keep taking a look at things, and now that you mentioned he's dock blocked, it's probably the worst bet you could make. I think in honor of random fantasy, I should bet Ty Gibbs just to do it. Like, not as a recommended bet. I feel like in honor of dock blocked final random fantasy, I'm gonna take Ty Gibbs -110 over Daniel Suarez. Don't bet that. Please don't bet that.
Please don't bet that.
I'm going to bet that because I like entertaining myself.
Like I said,
I'm absolutely taking Ty Gibbs -110.
It physically pained me to write up Ty Gibbs in my DraftKings article this last week.
Yeah. All right. We're in. Ty Gibbs. Let's go. Ty Gibbs -110 over Daniel Suarez. Lock of the week because of dock block. Please don't take this advice. It is a joke, but I actually did bet it. I have 0.55 units on it because my unit is now $200 in NASCAR. So I have 110 to win 100 on Ty Gibbs over Daniel Suarez. I'm not tracking it in my sheet because it's not a recommended bet. It is a I'm fucking around bet. For fun.
On next week's episode of Stacking Dennys, Nick's going to whine about how much Ty Gibbs sucks ass because he cost him money.
Exactly. What the hell are we doing?
But also,
especially after I berated, not berated, but I was like, because everybody loves Ty Gibbs this week, I'm going to fade him, and now I just bet him.
Yeah.
What an ass. What a hypocrite. God. No, it's so funny. Like I said, I always get more shit when I win. The one tweet I got this week about any of my betting stuff, essentially. Well, I know I got some good tweets, but I got another hater tweet, and it's just like, I don't get hater tweets when I lose. I only get hater tweets when I win.
It's weird.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Speaking of winning, IndyCar, 3 for 4 this year. Just absolutely kicking ass. The one I lost, his engine literally had a plenum explosion or something with 2 laps to go while he was leading. But destroying IndyCar this year. Absolutely destroying it.
Yeah. I need to tell that didn't sound good.
You heard that?
Yeah. That didn't sound good.
Yeah. So I think RotoDoc got into something. LB got into something. I'm guessing. It's his birthday's tomorrow. I mean, for you, it's oh, wait. No,
it's right now. It's 12:40 right now.
You're East Coast, right?
Yeah.
So for you, it's already his birthday. For me, it's not. But, it's no longer your birthday, so fuck you. No, I'm just kidding. How does it feel to be 33 for a full day now?
Yeah. I don't get too hyped up on birthdays. It's.
I
mean, as I was just saying, I started celebrating it. But
as a numbers guy, 33 is a good number because that's the number of cars that start the Indy 500. You should bet the Indy 500 this year, is what it's saying.
I think I will. You just need to tell me who to bet.
Oh, I will. Alex Palou, 11-1. You can get him, I think, at DraftKings right now. 11-1.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Make that bet now without anything.
Alex Palou 11-1. Well, they tested already at Indy in April.
Oh, did they?
And yeah, he was fast as shit. Looked really good.
What about your boy Kirkwood?
So 20-1. Kirkwood was fast as shit as well. He really likes this car. My issue with him, he's not traditionally an oval driver. That doesn't mean he can't. He's won at ovals before in the lower series, but there's very few and far between ovals. Also, Andretti themselves have not been amazing at Indy over the past several years, but Andretti's also made huge gains this year. I do have a bet on Kirkwood at something like 60-1 or something to win the Indy 500. It's tracked in my sheet as an official bet, but 20-1. Honestly, it's okay. Takuma Sato 20-1 at DraftKings. So I've already bet Alex Palou 11-1 at DraftKings, and I've already bet Takuma Sato 20-1 at DraftKings. And actually, now that I'm giving him out here on Stacking Dennys, I'm just going to go ahead and track him in my sheet because I didn't even think to, because I usually go on a week by week basis and didn't think to do that. But I want to track him. I don't want to necessarily say they're the most amazing bets of all time, great plays, but I do think they are positive EV bets. It's really early, though, to say, because we're going to get a whole month, or I should say a whole 2 weeks of track time on the Indy 500 oval. So don't rely just on test times and past history. We're still going to have a long way to go in Indy, so I don't want people who are listening to this, who are tailing it, to get too deep into these. But because it's your 33rd birthday, Jordan, bet Alex Palou 11-1, and if you really want to, bet Takuma Sato 20-1. Two-time Indy 500 winner Takuma Sato, now racing for arguably the best team in the series, Chip Ganassi Racing.
Shows how much I pay attention to IndyCar. I didn't even know he's won it twice. Nice.
Yeah, he has won it twice in, I think. Let me check how many starts he has made. He has made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 starts. He's won it twice. So 1 out of every 6.5, which would be plus 550 fair. He also wrecked going for the win in 2012 against Dario Franchitti. He literally was going for the win, and the caution that came out was because he wrecked while trying to pass Dario Franchitti for the win with a lap to go or 2 laps to go. So he arguably could be a 3-time winner. He finished 3rd in 2019. So he's super boomer bust. He basically wrecks or he finishes top 3. Mm-hmm. But that's what I want if I'm betting a guy to win, right? I want a guy who either wrecks or finishes top 3.
Well, I just bet Palou, so.
Bet Palou 11-1, and I definitely like Sato at 20-1. I mean, Marcus Ericsson last year won in a Ganassi car at 20 or 30-1, depending on where you got him. Most people got 22, 25-1. Takuma Sato is the Indy 500 pro. Just unbelievably good. Even when he raced for shitbox AJ Foyt Enterprises, he finished 13th twice.
I just bet him as well.
His wins in the Indy 500 came in the 1 year he raced for Andretti. PJ and I got him both at 50-1 that year. We're the dude who literally just challenged Dario Franchitti for the win in a lesser equipment car is now 50-1 in one of the best equipment cars. Yeah, we have to smash that. And then in 2020, he won again in Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing equipment. And Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing has won exactly 0 races since then. So that tells you how good Takuma Sato is at the Indy 500. He is the last driver to win in that equipment 3 years ago.
Nice.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I bet both of them.
Happy 33rd birthday. You now have 2 Indy 500 bets.
I have something to root for. I'm excited. I love action like that. But we got to Kansas this weekend, and then we go to what? Darlington? I love Darlington.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love Darlington. The race last year was insane. And I'm not talking the Southern 500 where Eric Jones won. I'm talking the first one. Larson and Ross were easily the two best cars. Rockets, and they both wrecked.
Yep. Then Logano, that was when Logano punted Byron for the win, right?
Byron. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
So, yep. Kansas this weekend should be a fun race, and then I can't wait to break down Darlington. And then we got the All-Star race. We're already at the All-Star break, man. We're almost there. It's crazy. But yeah, good luck to everybody betting this week. As you can tell, neither of us have bets in yet. As has been the case most of these races this year. There just hasn't been much value out there.
The year, honestly, the start of the year, we had a lot. Sometimes while we were recording this. And even 2 weeks ago for the Talladega race, we just bet top tens like on air live.
I'm talking like outright, so.
But yeah, outrights, most of this year, we haven't had a lot.
Nope.
The books are getting sharper on those, but they're leaving value on the props still.
Yep. So good luck to everybody this weekend. We'll talk to you next week when it comes to Darlington. But yeah, see you guys.
See y'all.